Good morning, everyone. It is a Sabbath day. I am happy to be here with you all. As we're getting started, check-in question for today. It's telling me that I'm unable to connect to the chat, so I hope that's not the case for all of you. Hopefully that's just the case for me. But check-in question for today is it's obvious what kind of the bad parts and the sad parts about having to do worship like this are. So what are the good parts? What is the best part of doing worship like this? We know what the bad parts are. We don't need to repeat them. So what is something that's just kind of nice about doing worship this way? There are no answers coming in, so hopefully that doesn't mean that no one can chat. I'm going to try something here. Seems like I am able to connect to the chat, so hopefully you are. I will wait just a few more seconds. If I don't get any responses, I'm going to assume that nobody can get onto the chat, which is a bummer. So these questions, then you can just answer among yourselves. Oh, it says there are about 4 answers. I just don't know what they are. So I am unable to see the chat, but everyone else is. That's great. Let me see if I can. Hey, Courtney, can you bring like a device in so I can see what the chats are? I can't see it on my computer. Yeah. All right. So thank you, Aaron, for telling me that there are actually people answering. I just can't see it, which is weird. So for those of you who have just joined us, we are answering what is nice about doing worship this way. We know what's bad, but so let's kind of focus on what's nice. Okay, thank you. Do you need this eventually? Okay. Can you maybe bring me your phone and I can look at it on your phone?
I can watch it from my phone.
You can watch it from your phone? Okay. Courtney's going to watch it from her phone. Thank you. All right, so I've got a little Inception thing going on here. That's kind of fun. So we have here, life is good. I can come as is. Yes, absolutely. That is a wonderful thing. For those of you just joining us, welcome. Happy Sabbath. We are answering in the text what is nice about coming to worship in this way rather than formally. We obviously miss that. We want that. But this is there are some nice things about it. So we have being closer to family. Absolutely. I'm here. No icy roads. Yeah, absolutely. Don't have to worry about the icy roads. I may not have made it down to Wahpeton this week from Fargo. Liam can play and we can listen. No need to keep him super silent. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that can be a tough thing. We love our children. We love our children in the church. And actually, for those of you who have kids, I did think of a kids video that I can put out. So I'm gonna be working on that this weekend. That's kind of going along with the last couple daily video texts. And so heads up for that shortly. There'll be a video that can kind of nice little kind of a children's story for the kids in the video. Getting the daily devotionals. Awesome. Pajamas, someone said. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Love coming worship in pajamas. However, I want to give a big disclaimer. You are always welcome to come to worship in pajamas. All right. So when this thing is over and you feel like, you know what, I'm so glad to be coming back together, please just come in your sweats, come in your pajamas. We will have a grand time together. So a second question for today, the fun question, the one that has a lot riding on it, getting to go out and have a nice beverage with me. So like last week, if you have been kind of keeping up with the daily videos, then you'll know you'll have a better chance of answering this question first. So this question is, what has changed in the daily videos? What has changed in the daily videos? First one to answer wins. Aaron, congratulations. Answered quickly. Where I am sitting has changed. That is funny because you are the one who said that you don't pay attention to the clothes. So apparently you pay attention to all of the surrounding areas, just not what I'm wearing. Study apart from video. Oh yes, Aletha, that is also the correct answer. You can study apart from the video. Thank you. Yeah, 2 winners today. Great job. So Aaron, you win because I have changed the location. The window that I used to sit behind was making a lot of light. It made it really hard to record if I didn't record early in the morning or at night. And sometimes I don't record until late morning. And so I needed a better way to control the light. So I moved to in front of the fireplace instead of next to it. Hi, Seamus. It's good to see you again, buddy. Can't wait to see you. I'll take Diet Dr. Pepper. All right, Aletha, sounds good. I can't wait to see everybody again and get together. But thank you for mentioning that, Aletha. Just to let you all know, again, if you're going through the daily videos with us, studying with us, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Flipgrid.com/Wahpeton Church. Every daily video has that link in the description for the last week. So you can go ahead and check out flipgrid.com/Wahpeton Church. There's been a couple of us who have posted on there, kind of sharing our thoughts of how God spoke to us in the text, and it has been great. So we invite all of you to participate in that way. Aaron says Flipgrid is legit. Yes, it is. It absolutely is. It's a wonderful thing. And the last announcement that I have today is same as every week. Wahpetonchurch.com is our website. Again, thank you, Aaron, for maintaining that for us. Wahpetonchurch.com, there is a tithes and offerings tab where you can go, and if you would like to continue giving to the church, then we encourage you to do that. So Wahpetonchurch.com is where you can give if you would like to do that. So before I get started today with what we're going to be talking about, I wanted to mention that we do want this to be, pretty interactive, and it's been somewhat interactive with the chat and everything. So if the last couple weeks there have kind of been like comments and questions that I didn't actually address, and I apologize for that. We're going to try and do a little bit better this week. So what's going to happen? You can type in your questions. I probably won't see it, but at the end, I'll give a little time to answer those questions. So if you have any questions, like just type them into the chat right away, and I'll try and find them at the end. And if you want to wait till the end to ask a few questions or make a few comments, that's great too. So at the end of this little sermon thing, then you'll have an opportunity to ask questions, to share comments, and I will do my best to answer them. I'm not a biblical scholar, so I probably won't be able to answer all of your questions, but hopefully I will get to some of them. Yes, and if you're looking at the chat, Aaron says to email or text him if there's something that needs to be changed on the website. He's doing a great job for updating that for us. So today, before we get started, I want to invite you to grab a Bible of some form, whether it be an actual physical copy of the Bible or your phone, or even opening up a new tab on the internet, because you will need a Bible today. This is an interesting passage that I want you to be able to see for your own eyes. Today, we are in Leviticus 16. All right, so Leviticus 16, and Leviticus 16 is one of the main reasons why I got interested in doing a series in Leviticus in the first place. Was because of Leviticus 16 and what that represents and what that means. And then 17 through 27 are just a whole bunch of really awesome things that I'm really excited about. But Leviticus 16 and the Day of Atonement was something that kind of eluded me. I didn't totally understand it, but I was really excited about it. And so this is kind of one of the main impetus for studying this passage in the first place. So Leviticus chapter 16, that's where we're going to be today. First things first, we need to understand that this is what Leviticus 16 is. Leviticus 16 is the center of the book of Leviticus, but it's also the center of the entire Torah. Okay, so from a literary standpoint, this is the summit of the first 5 books of the Bible, the books of Moses, the Torah. This is the summit of it. So we have 5 books. Leviticus is the third, so it's in the middle, right? So this is already, it's the summit of the first 5 books. But then Leviticus 16 is in the middle of the book of Leviticus. So this is the summit of the summit. So Leviticus 1 through 15 are the gifts of ritual, right? And all the things that come along with that. 1 through 15 is the gifts of ritual. 17 through 27 are the gifts of justice and how to live well together. And chapter 16 is what deals with the failures of both Leviticus 1 through 15 and Leviticus 17 through 27. Okay, so what Leviticus 16 does is it bridges the gap between God's expectations and human failure. So Leviticus 16 essentially answers the question, what do we do when we mess up? And the answer is Leviticus 16, the Day of Atonement. This ritual that you go through is what happens when you mess up. This is what you do when you don't live up to what God's expectations are for the people. So very quickly, the narrative of the Bible thus far. Genesis represents a longing for Eden, right? Because they were exiled from Eden. And so Genesis represents a longing for a return to Eden. Exodus, second book of the Bible, represents a return to Eden. Okay, so Exodus, the liberation, right? Return to Eden. Leviticus then represents entering into the garden. Okay, so you can return to Eden, but then there's a whole process that you need to go through to enter into the garden, and that is the book of Leviticus. So a couple of examples from Leviticus 16. So the presence of God, the language to describe the presence of God in Leviticus 16 is the same language used to describe the presence of God in Genesis 1 and 2. The veil in the temple that separates the holy place from the most holy place, the veil was woven with cherubim, and it's the same cherubim that would stand guard at the Garden of Eden when they were exiled. Remember, there was an angel that was placed at the entrance to the garden so that no one could get in again. So the cherubim are on the veil and guarding the garden. The priestly duties that are used here in Leviticus 16, they use the same verbs as Adam's duties in order to keep until the garden. Adam's duties. And lastly, exile from the garden happened toward the east. So the garden, you were exiled into the eastward. Okay, so now the temple was set up so that you move westward towards the most holy place. Okay, so you were exiled to the east, and then the temple set up that you move through the temple to the west towards the most holy place. So the Day of Atonement, as you're moving westward towards the most holy place, is a reversal of what happened in Genesis 3. It's a reversal of the exile to the east as we move westward to the presence of God. So let's jump in here. Leviticus 16. Leviticus 16, verse 1 says, "The Lord spoke to Moses after the death of the 2 sons of Aaron, when they drew near to the Lord and died. And the Lord said to Moses, 'Tell Aaron your brother not to come at any time into the holy place inside the veil, before the mercy seat that is on the ark, so that he may not die. For I will appear in the cloud over the mercy seat.'" So right away, we have a callback to what happened in chapter 10. Okay, that was a lot of weeks ago. We were actually able to physically gather together in place at that time. But remember what happened, that the sons of Aaron took unholy fire into the tabernacle and they died. And so this Chapter 10 is a springboard for chapter 16. All right, they're intimately connected because it tells us that they are, right? After this happened, after his sons died, this is what was supposed to happen. Now, let's I'm going to come back to that in a second, but let's keep going here. Verse 3. Chapter 16 verse 3. But in this way Aaron shall come into the holy place with a bull from the herd for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. He shall put on the holy linen coat and shall have linen undergarments, and he shall tie the linen sash around his waist and wear the linen turban. These are the holy garments. He shall bathe his body in water and then put them on. And he shall take from the congregation of the people of Israel 2 male goats for a sin offering and 1 ram for a burnt offering. So that's basically what was supposed to happen on the Day of Atonement. Normally, Aaron would get dressed up for his daily duties. Then there's kind of an extravagant piece of clothing that you're supposed to wear. If you remember, there are those 2 stones that are super shiny and bright that he's wearing. None of that happens on the Day of Atonement. It's much more simple. He wears just really simple clothing on the Day of Atonement. And it says that he sacrifices a bull and a ram, and then he sacrifices 2 goats and a ram, and that's basically what happens on the Day of Atonement. Verse 6. Aaron shall offer the bull as a sin offering for himself and shall make atonement for himself and for his house. Okay, so the bull is for Aaron. The bull is for Aaron. Then he shall take the 2 goats and set them before the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And Aaron shall cast lots over the 2 goats, 1 lot for the Lord and the other lot for Azazel. And Aaron shall present the goat on which the lot fell for the Lord and use it as a sin offering. But the goat on which the lot fell for Azazel shall be presented alive before the Lord to make atonement over it, so that it may be sent away into the wilderness to Azazel. Now, if your question is, what is this word Azazel? My translation maybe says scapegoat or whatever. This word Azazel, if that's your question, I'm sorry, I don't know. And nobody does. There are lots of speculation, but nobody knows what this word means. That's why in a lot of translations of the Bible, the word isn't translated. It's just Azazel, because we don't know what that word means. But this is essentially laying out, this is what happens on the Day of Atonement. The bull is sacrificed for Aaron and for his family, for the house of the priests. And then the goats are sacrificed for the rest of the people. Verses 11 through 28 essentially go through a deeper protocol of how this was all supposed to happen. So, verse 14 then. I want to focus on verse 14. So, Aaron takes the bull and he sacrifices it. Verse 14, and he shall take some of the blood of the bull and sprinkle it with his finger on the front of the mercy seat on the east side. And in front of the mercy seat, he shall sprinkle some of the blood with his finger 7 times. Okay, so first, sprinkling blood. We've seen this before in the book of Leviticus. This is a cleansing act. This was removing the pollution of sin that had happened, so that he's sprinkling the blood. And it says that he is sprinkling the blood on the east side of the Ark of the Covenant, right? So he's moving west, reversing what happened in Genesis 3, moving westward, reversing exile to get to the east side of the Ark of the Covenant, and he sprinkles the blood on there. And he sprinkles it 7 times, all right? As we have seen almost every single week, there's been some mention of 7. And as we say every week, when there's a 7 mentioned, we are meant to think about creation. We're meant to think about new world, a reordering of the world. This is a new creation that is starting right here, right now. He sprinkles it 7 times to signify this is a new start that we are getting. This is the original new year, new me, right? He comes in, hey, it's the Day of Atonement. It's happening once a year. Sprinkle it 7 times. New year, new me. So the bull is for Aaron. Then we get to the goat in verse 15. So he sacrifices. They cast lots for the goats. There are these 2 goats. They cast lots to see which one. They cast lots because no part of human decision is to be part of the Day of Atonement. God is the sole actor here. God is the one who is working. There's no part of human hands that are making decisions in this. It is all for God. And so they cast lots to decide which goat goes to be sacrificed and which one becomes the scapegoat. So he takes the goat that he has sacrificed. Verse 15, then he shall kill the goat of the sin offering that is for the people and bring its blood inside the veil and do with its blood as he did with the bull. Okay, so he sprinkles it 7 times in the same way that he did for the bull. So the bull is for Aaron and his family, and the goat is for all of the people of Israel. Verse 16, thus he shall make atonement for the holy place because of the uncleannesses of the people of Israel and because of their transgressions, all their sins. And he shall do for the tent of meeting, which dwells with them in the midst of their uncleannesses. Okay, so verses 15 and 16, we see that he kills the goat and sprinkles it, cleaning up all of the pollution that the people have caused in the tabernacle. So what is this all about? Like why is this so important? Go back to verse 1. And we see that the Lord spoke to Moses after the death of the 2 sons when they drew near to the Lord and died. So remember, last week we talked about that this is the God of life. This God wants to give life. And now there's death in the house of life. And this has to be remedied. This has to be taken care of because there's death inside of the house of life. And what is the entire promise of the Day of Atonement, right? It's at the end of verse 2 when it says, "For I will appear in the cloud." That's the whole promise. That's the whole point of the Day of Atonement is God is going to appear in the cloud. God's presence is going to dwell among them. And then it says in verse 3, "But this is the way Aaron shall come into the holy place." All right, so God promises, my presence is going to come and dwell among you. This is how you do it. So this is a radical idea, right? Because this God, unlike all of the other gods that they would have experienced, this God is not fickle. This God can be understood. And this God lets you know exactly what is expected in order to live within that presence. And so, hey, there's been some death in the house of life, and we need to take care of that. Here's how we take care of that. Here's how we cleanse this pollution that has happened. Now, it says here in verse 5, as we read, "And he shall take from the congregation of the people of Israel 2 male goats for a sin offering and 1 ram for a burnt offering." So, first, we need to recognize these 2 goats that come, they come together. They are brought together, and they are meant to be linked together because it says that he brings 2 goats for a sin offering. So they're meant to be linked together. Now, according to rabbinic tradition, these 2 goats were physically identical. So they looked exactly the same. And they cast lots, they sacrifice one, and they sprinkle the blood to cleanse for all the people. All right. So all of the ways that the people have messed up in the past year, all of the ways that they didn't create a well-ordered world, it polluted the sanctuary. And remember that the sanctuary is a stand-in for all of the created world. And so the sanctuary, then the pollution that has kind of made it all messy is now cleansed. Okay, so the pollution has been cleansed. Now, the scapegoat, the second goat, is so fascinating. And verse 20 is where we're going to look at right here. "When he has made an end of atonement for the holy place and the tent of meeting and the altar," okay, meaning he went and sprinkled the goat, the blood of the goat, "he shall present the live goat." Verse 21. "And Aaron shall lay both hands on the head of the live goat and confess over it all of the iniquities of the people of Israel and all their transgressions, all their sins. He shall put them on the head of the goat and send it away into the wilderness by the hand of a man who is in readiness. The goat shall bear all of their iniquities on itself to a remote area, and he shall let the goat free in the wilderness. Super weird thing that just happened, right? When we read that, we're kind of like, what is happening here? What does that even mean? It sounds nice. It sounds nice, but I don't really get it. So he puts both hands onto the goat, which is a transference ritual, that when you're putting both hands, you are transferring something onto this thing. So he puts both hands, confesses all of the sins of the people over the past year, and he transfers them into the goat. So all of the ways in the past year that I have taken advantage of people, all of the ways I have taken advantage of the earth, all of the times that I punished someone beyond what was necessary, all of the times that I harmed someone and didn't make reparation for it, all of the times when I had someone who needed something and I didn't share what I had, every instance of selfishness and greed, everything I've done that destroys rather than creates over the past year, all of that goes into this goat. And then the goat is let out into the wilderness. Now, in the Hebrew mindset, the wilderness is the chaos waters before creation, right? When Genesis 1 says that the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters, they're just waters there. It's complete chaos. There's no order to it because it hasn't been created yet, right? So creation is these or wilderness rather. Wilderness is this chaos waters, non-creation. It's the opposite of creation and a well-ordered world. This is chaos. And so what happens then is the goat removes the chaos from creation and it is placed back where it came from. So all of the ways that you created chaos over the last year, it leaves with the goat. All of them leave with the goat and they're gone forever. And remember, these goats are physically identical because both of them are representing the people. So the people then, they are vicariously through the blood of the goat carried into the presence of God. While their sin is carried the opposite direction, away from God and away from you. All right? So this is happening. They're carried into the presence of God, and their sin is carried away from them. Where is our sin? Not here, not in this place. This place has been cleansed. There was a physical removal between you and your sin as you are carried westward towards God, and your sin is carried eastward toward exile and chaos where it came from. So imagine the spectacle of this. The spectacle is the point, right? That you're standing there, your sins, all of the ways that you have messed up and created a disordered and chaotic world, all of them are transferred onto this goat, and you are physically separated from your sin as you are carried towards the very presence of God. Now, Susan had asked, one of the questions that she asked at the very beginning was, why did they keep doing the Day of Atonement after God had left the temple, after God's presence had left the temple? And this is why they kept doing the rituals of the Day of Atonement, because it's such a powerful ritual and spectacle to see all of my sins, all of the ways that I have fallen short over the past year. Not only are they forgiven, but they are then transferred onto this goat, and I'm physically separated from them. So it's such a powerful image to think about. I am completely cleansed. My sin is being separated from me as I am being carried to the presence of God. So verse 29 then, chapter 16, verse 29. It says, "And it shall be a statute to you forever, that in the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, you shall afflict yourselves and shall do no work, either the native or the stranger who sojourns among you. For on this day shall atonement be made for you to cleanse you. You shall be clean before the Lord from all your sins. All right, you shall be cleaned before the Lord for all your sins. And in verse 29, it says that everybody who is a part of you, even the outsiders who are living with you, they are also welcome to participate in this process. And it says, hey, you're not going to do any work on this day. This is going to be a Sabbath of solemn rest for you. You don't do anything. You don't do any work because there's nothing for you to do. You just need to trust. Trust that the work has been done. Trust that when the goat leaves, your sin is being physically separated from you, and you then sit and reside in the presence of God. And it says that this shall be a statute to you forever. Now, for most of us, we grew up in a Jesus tradition, some form of Christian tradition, and we're kind of told that Jesus fulfilled the law and Jesus fulfilled Leviticus, so we don't need it anymore. And while it's true, Jesus fulfilled the law, look at all of that we're missing. I mean, over the past several months, we've been going through the book of Leviticus. If we say Jesus fulfilled the law, we don't need Leviticus anymore. Everything that we're missing out on is we're missing out on a ritual to express gratitude to God. We're missing out on a ritual that will help us make amends when we have wronged someone or when someone has wronged us. We have all of these things that talk about how to live well together, how to care for each other. We have all of these rituals about how to properly care for the earth. And we have this ritual of the Day of Atonement, this where we get reminded of the physical separation that we have from our sin over the past year. And those are all really awesome things that I think would be really beneficial for us to hold on to. We have de-Judaized our faith to our detriment. We have removed the Jewishness of our roots, and I think it's to our detriment that this book of Leviticus, especially this Day of Atonement, represents a ritual that is so rich with meaning that if I could have a yearly reminder where all of my sins are placed onto a goat and it's physically separated from me as I am carried to the very presence of God, imagine what that would do for us on that day. If you have some time this afternoon, take a few minutes and read Hebrews 9 and 10. Hebrews 9 and 10 talks about the Day of Atonement in relation to Jesus. And what's fascinating is that even when you look at, hey, Jesus fulfilled all of this thing, the principle is the same that it was in the book of Leviticus. That's just about trust. It's about lessening your anxiety. It's about telling you, hey, you don't have anything to do. There's nothing for you to do. Just trust that your sins have been removed from you, that you are cleansed. Where is my sin? Not here. It has been separated from me. It has been exiled to the east while I have moved to the west toward the presence of God. The Day of Atonement was a new start. It was a reset. You are completely made new. Your sin is carried away while your heart is carried to the presence of God. And that is what the Day of Atonement is all about. So, do you have any questions before we end today? What Bible version am I using? I'm using the ESV. It's one of my favorite versions. It does really well at connecting what the original words were, but in a way that makes sense for today. So ESV is what I usually use. Like foot washing. Yes, absolutely. This is very much like the ritual of foot washing where we we are cleansed. We have this new baptism. We start a new life. And like we've talked about the last couple of weeks, adding an element of confession before the foot washing can be a way to really enhance the meaning of that. The east-west direction. So that comes from where it talks about in Genesis 1, it talks about where the Garden of Eden was situated and then where the rivers were. And so if they were leaving the garden, then they would have been going towards the east. And the temple setup was at the end of Exodus. It talks about how they were to set up this temple from the east toward the west. And so a lot of the pictures that we have actually are opposite. Like we see the picture and it's like, if we're looking at east to west, like on a map, then it's going the opposite direction. It would have been this way. According to the book of Exodus, they would have been moving towards the west. Yes, to see the goat reappear. That likely didn't happen. It's probably pretty quickly. What happened was they took it to a cliff and they like pushed it off the cliff. So the goat actually died. That's likely what happened. So yes, Azazel being the leader of the rebel angels, there are a couple of commentators who have said that it's like a kind of this basically like a demon, and that kind of mirrors a lot of the ancient practices of their neighbors, that there would have been this type of like casting out of sin. And so yeah, there's no consensus on what Azazel actually means, because it's not a word that we've been able to translate. Okay. Looks like we don't have any more questions. So thank you so much for joining us again. This is the week before the Resurrection Sunday weekend. So I'm very excited about what's going to be coming up next. So we will have more news for you throughout the week as to what next weekend is going to look like. But we're very excited about what we have coming up. So stay tuned to this channel for the daily videos and that we're going to be doing this week and leading up to Resurrection Sunday, where we can celebrate that we have new life because Jesus conquered death and the grave is now empty. So let's celebrate this week as we move towards that beautiful day. So thank you again for joining us. A very happy Sabbath. And as always, may God bless you and keep you. May the face of Jesus shine upon you and be gracious to you. And may the fullness of the Spirit dwell within you and give you peace. Happy Sabbath.